Yeah.
Uh,
So another way, and another sort of quote um, that relates to my favorite one, comes from the theory of cognitive dissonance, which is you can change your attitude or you can change your behavior if you want to solve a problem. You could do nothing, and that doesn't get anybody any farther, and they're still themselves. But if you are confronted with something that matters, that is making you feel uncomfortable, and you're feeling this cognitive dissonance, you can change your attitude. You can say, this doesn't bother me anymore. And that's fine because you've resolved the problem in a certain way. Or you can say, I'm going to do something material. I'm going to change something actively in my life or in my situation.
Welcome back to Relatable Wisdom, the podcast where everyday people share the quotes that have shaped their lives, inviting us all to reflect and grow together. Today we're joined by Amy Adler, a passionate career expert and president of Five Strengths Career Transition Experts. With over 15 years of experience, Amy has dedicated her life to helping executives navigate their career journeys, crafting resumes that tell their unique stories. Her warmth and deep understanding of personal transitions make her insights truly special. Let's dive into Amy's world and discover the wisdom she has to share with us today. Tell me your name and what you do.
My name is Amy Adler, and I am a resume writer.
Wow.
I work with
Uh,
executives, people all across the career continuum, really, but primarily executives to help them get to their next thing, get them to where they want to be.
yeah, I love the way you just packaged it. Sounded like you cure cancer. Yeah. Oh. Okay, what's your favorite quote?
My favorite quote is, wherever you go, there you are.
What does that mean? That's
What
what
does
I
it
asked.
mean? It means you can't outrun yourself. And if you're experiencing an issue that comes from inside your head or inside your heart or inside your experience, running away from it is not going to change who you are. So it's better to confront what you're experiencing and deal with it than to hide.
Will you be kind enough to share a story of what it means to run away from who we are?
Can I share a story of what it means to run away?
Yeah.
So I think I can say for myself, when I first heard this quote, um, I was a young adult, really young adult, sort of freshly minted adult, and I didn't have the tools to manage all of the things that were coming up really, really quickly, all of the things that it meant to be a modern adult, everything from starting to get an education and earn a living and all those things. But hiding from that wasn't going to change the fact that I had to do it. I didn't have a choice. And I was still going to be me, whether I was confronting these issues or deciding to put my head in the sand, bury my head in the sand, because doing so would just mean the problem would still exist tomorrow. But I didn't really know, I didn't have the experience to sort of put words to what I was going through. And as it happened, I had a good friend and a sort of a mentor who shared this wisdom with me in a certain way. And the advice that I got was something like, you're going to be who you are, so you can either accept it or you can make change and you can do something different to adapt your experience and your sort of your next steps to the situations that you are facing and confront them and be okay with doing the hard thing. And that's really what it amounted to, is figuring out why it was difficult and then making the next step forward even though it was difficult.
Yeah. When you give the example of hiding the face in the sound, I could remember it's just like little children where they when they're scared they use their hands to cover their face as though if they cannot see you the problem would disappear.
It's
And
exactly it.
as funny as it is, that's what we adults sometimes do in life. The issues that the hard conversations that we need to deal with, we don't deal with it. We avoid it, and it's there. It's like burden in our heads, in our mind.
Making it a part of who you are, to remember that who you are is not bad. If you're unable to deal with something or you don't know enough at the moment to deal with whatever you're facing, so maybe it's paying your bills or getting a new job or dealing with family or talking to your friends or your significant other, not doing that doesn't solve the problem. It delays the solution. And I've heard in some sense. So when I've not done this, but if somebody decides to upend their whole life and move to another location, well, I've heard it called pulling a geographic. That doesn't solve the problem either, because they're still going to be in their new location, right? They're still going to be
Yeah.
themselves. So making that making it a priority to address the situation head on is always going to be better. So in my case, it's sort of in my practice, when I work with individuals who are in the midst of job searches, sometimes they are so fearful about making a change that they do nothing. And then they get to a point where they are so frustrated that they call in kind of a panic. And I've had every experience you can imagine with people who I don't know yet. I mean, this is the first time I'm speaking to them, just pouring out their deepest emotions about how frustrated they are with their situations, whether it's their professional situation, maybe with their boss or their team, or maybe they've been out of work for a while, and helping them to be in that moment and understand their options. Maybe they weren't exposed to anything other than the very generic advice of go get a new job, which isn't very helpful. But here are the steps that somebody can take. If I'm imagining speaking to this person, here's steps you can take to do something new. Because tomorrow you're going to be in the exact same situation, or maybe worse, if you don't make choices today. And certainly, if you don't make choices today that are going to benefit you, down the road, you're going to be in maybe a more diverted from the path you could be on, if you're not engaging effectively with your own emotions and your own thought processes and goals.
Yeah. Yeah. I like the example you gave of someone traveling away from uh, the issue, whereas they realize that, because most of the issue we're dealing with, it's mental, it's within, right? It's how our within reacts to what is without. And so even though we run away from the situation, what will happen is that we will always be with ourselves. You can't run away from yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So another way, and another sort of quote um, that relates to my favorite one, comes from the theory of cognitive dissonance, which is you can change your attitude or you can change your behavior if you want to solve a problem. You could do nothing, and that doesn't get anybody any farther, and they're still themselves. But if you are confronted with something that matters, that is making you feel uncomfortable, and you're feeling this cognitive dissonance, you can change your attitude. You can say, this doesn't bother me anymore, and that's fine because you've resolved the problem in a certain way. Or you can say, I'm going to do something material. I'm going to change something actively in my life or in my situation that is going to have repercussions, good repercussions, so that the cognitive dissonance is also resolved, because that's a very, very uncomfortable state to be in, where you're very, stressed about the tension between what you're feeling and what your reality is. But if you make that change either mentally or actively in your life, that tension resolves, and now you have active change. So you're still yourself, and you've made measurable progress in your decision making.
Hmm. You
No
said earlier
worries, no
on
worries. I know how
that
it is.
you change your attitude, your behavior. Are those things the same things said in different words, or are they different words?
That's a good question. I think that changing attitude is deciding whether the thing still bothers you, because the goal is to resolve the tension. The goal is to make yourself feel more comfortable about the progress that you are making. So if so you really have a couple of choices. You can choose to do nothing and still stay in that body of tension, where you feel uncomfortable all the time and upset, and you can't run away from your problems, so you're still kind of in it. So that's one option. It's not a good one, but doing nothing, I guess, is a choice. So then changing your attitude is saying, is this really a problem? Is it okay that this is happening and I'm just frustrated and I have to not be frustrated? And that resolves the tension. The third option is to change your behavior. So again, in my world, if it's somebody who is looking for a job and they choose to do nothing and stay in their position and stay in their in their role. Maybe their manager is very frustrating, or their team is very frustrating, or the work is drying up, or whatever it is. That's still a choice. But if they say, okay, now I'm not going to do this anymore, I'm going to take the tools I have, the resources I have access to, and do something different. It may not be the best choice. They might not know until it all resolves, but it's taking action in a way that should resolve that tension because there is agency in the solution.
Yeah. Sometimes I think sometimes the problem yeah, it's good you mentioned this because recently I noticed that there are certain problems that are not exactly problems. They're just knowledge problems, right? It's not like you're struggling with something because you just don't know how to do it better. It's not because that thing is a problem. If you know how to do it better, you just do it better. And then when I realized that knowledge problem should not be one of those things that give us sleepless nights. You just learn how to do it better, right? Let's take a quick pause. If you're enjoying this conversation and want more thought-provoking ideas straight to your inbox, join the Relatable Wisdom email list. It's free, quick, and filled with bite-sized insights, inspiring quotes, and behind-the-scenes reflections from our guests. Just head to relatablewisdom.com/join. That is relatablewisdom.com/join. Or tap the link in the show notes. And hey, subscribing to the podcast helps more than you think, and it's free. So if you haven't already, hit that follow button wherever you're listening. All right, let's get back to the conversation.
But right, and that's a choice. The choice is to learn something different, right? Or to better your understanding of the situation. And that's a tremendous choice and very empowering. I think all of this is meant to, again, center the discussion on empowerment or agency. Are you making a choice to do something that is making actual change? And if it's learning something or gaining new knowledge, whether it's technical or interpersonal or emotional, I think people do better when they have better tools. And maybe the first step is acknowledging that they don't have the tools and that there are ways to get at that information that they just have to seek out.
Yeah, yeah. I think the idea of even accepting that you don't have the tools, it takes a lot of what's the word? Takes a lot of courage. Yeah, that's the word.
And maybe a little bit of insight, self-reflection. That's always hard because I think everybody is likely to blame the other guy. This would be better if only somebody else did something, but
Yeah.
so much of that can be in yourself. And knowing that you're not limited. You're not limited by your circumstances if it's knowledge based. It's a very easy thing to do. Especially if there are no financial considerations, if it's going to find the right resource, if it's going to talk to the right person. Obviously, education can be expensive in a formal sense, but if there's something that's preventing somebody from moving forward with because of lack of access to some specific technical or theoretical expertise, hopefully they can find that and find the right resource to learn what they need to know.
Yeah, I think people are more concerned about looking smart than actually being smart.
My goodness, that's a tremendously loaded statement, right?
Yeah,
People
because
have a lot to.
the example
Yeah.
I'm giving is that let's say you explain, like you mention a word, a concept, and I'm like, if I ask her what this thing mean now, she'll tell me, she'll think I'm stupid. No, let me just nod my head and say, wow, brilliant idea. Yeah, exactly. And then when she asks me, yeah, you get what I'm saying? I'm like, yeah, perfect. I really understand. And then it's like, ah, sure. In her mind, she thinking I'm smart, right? But instead of actually saying, oh, excuse me, madam, what do you mean when you say these concepts? Can you retrace that? What does that mean? Can you say it in layman terms? I don't really get that. Like that's like way over my head. Can you break it down? And then you're like, at that point in time, for like a few minutes, I would look stupid, right? But after that point in time, I would learn that stuff and I would be smart to myself. But because like, no, I can't do that.
Yeah. But can I say, I agree with you. I think people do think that. But I think the flip side is everybody wants to talk about themselves. So asking somebody for their advice or their expertise, they're thinking about themselves. And to the extent that, the resource in your example, the woman in your example, asking her for advice doesn't make one look, you might not feel very smart, but it gives them the chance to feel very smart and to share their wisdom and to talk about their experiences. And that is likely to make them think that you are a brilliant conversational partner
Oh,
because you have engaged them so well.
oh.
And
I'm just like, you're just dropping some sound bites. And so I'm just saying words aloud, sinking it. You can keep doing saying what you're saying.
well, the reason thank you. The reason I say this is that, and again, speaking from the position of job search, if that's I can speak about that because it's my work. But
Please do.
when people are seeking new roles and they're looking to find new knowledge about maybe a different type of role or a different company, as we call this informational interviewing. So they can go and it's not an interview for a job, but just to figure out more about the institution or
Yeah,
the person or whatever it is. Asking the first handful of questions and getting that person engaged, let them speak, let them share their wisdom, share their knowledge, and they will thank you for it. They will love the chance to speak about what they know best, which is themselves. And you learn something too because you've asked the good
yeah,
questions.
yeah. I think it's in a way, for most people say that's bad, but also it's also a good thing because if people love to talk about themselves, then it means you can learn a lot if you are willing to not talk about yourself for just a little longer, right? Because then, like, we're having a conversation. I'm like, I want to tell you about the amazing things I did in my holiday and all that stuff. And I'm like, no, just listen, like, listen.
Um, I feel like we have two ears and one mouth, and maybe we should use them in that proportion. So,
Uh, yeah, that's what would I call it? That example. There's a reason why you have two ears and one mouth because you want to listen more and talk less. So yeah, people talk a lot, right? They say things, they say the things out, and then once the words is out of their mouth, they're like, oh, what I said was absolute nonsense, and it's already out there. You can't take it back. And I'm like, what's going on? Is it that you talk before you think? What's happening?
I think we all fall prey to that.
Yeah,
We all fall prey to that. I think as humans, we like the sound of our own voice.
Mm,
Um, but I think also that maybe we're a little lonely and we
yeah,
think that we're not getting enough engagement. Well, we went pretty far from the original premise, but I think maybe it all ties together in the sense that finding the right people can help you make the right choices and figure out a way out of your situation because they have more knowledge, right? If we're listening twice as much as we're speaking, that's the best way to have more knowledge, to learn more things from people who really know.
yeah. Because sometimes people have problems and they just what's the word? They caress the problem, right? Like it could be intentional, it could not be intentional. I don't really know, but like let's say they're struggling with something. Let's say in the example you gave, writing a resume or applying for a job or something like that, right? There are points where they they're just there. Like it's not like other people now they keep doing the same thing they've been doing over and over again, and they know that it's not working, and they don't sit down to ask themselves what exactly is the problem. Is it that I don't know what I'm doing? Which is a very nobody wants to say that they don't know what they're doing. Right? I say, okay, who should I meet for help? Right? And say, okay, I should meet an expert who's like really good in this field that can really tell me, so that they look at my work and tell me if this is the issue or if I need to focus and start looking at something else. And then no, but then they're like, no, they don't do that stuff because people don't want to like sit down and say, what is the exact specific thing that I'm actually doing to deal with the problem? But instead, when you ask them, oh, well, what happened? Did you apply for jobs? I've applied everywhere. I didn't get job. And I'm like, what do you mean you applied everywhere? So you mean you applied to all the companies? And well, actually, it's not like that. So you didn't apply everywhere. So that's what we're saying, basically. Yes, yes. Because if they say that they did not apply, it will make them look bad because that's like, back to the idea of people want to look smart rather than be smart. That's just the thing. And that's where the big problems
I
come
will
from.
carry that with me. I will really carry that with me.
Uh,
Um,
yeah.
but I also think it's okay for people to own their expertise. So if somebody is coming to you and you have the knowledge that will help them, it's sharing your wisdom, sharing your knowledge and your experience even if you're talking a lot about yourself, might really help somebody else. So I think there's two ways to look at that.
Yeah, yeah.
Just knocked my headset.
Yeah, it happens. It happens. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much, Amy. Thank you so much for this. I know this episode is like, it's every section is value, 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 value. And I'm just in my brain, I'm just imagining what the social media clips will look like straight up and straight up. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute delight chatting with you.
Likewise, thank you so much. I've been so honored to meet you and to share some really interesting ideas with you and to learn from you.
Yeah. Thank you. Where can people learn more about you and what you do? Earlier on, you mentioned that you're a resume writer.
Yes. People are welcome to visit my website. That's fivestrengths.com. That's FIVESTRENGTHS.com.
Okay, fivestrengths.com. And you'd see all you are looking for. Thank you so much, Amy.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, that's the. Thanks for listening to Relatable Wisdom. If you found something meaningful in this episode, make sure to follow or subscribe wherever you're listening. If you'd like to support the show, you can do that by buying me a coffee. The link is in the show notes. Every little bit keeps the conversations going. I'm your host, Wisdom Okonkwo, and I will see you in the next one. Until then, stay curious, stay inspired, and keep growing.